dealing with some crazy people, a lot of them, on some whole other stuff when it comes to children, theirs and ours. That's one reason why they're so crazy and angry and hostile all the time, because of what their childhoods were like. You see the same example going on in so-called Haiti. You know, a lot of them Europeans went over there and started exporting a bunch of children, and they have no good intentions for our children. When they first got here, they did the same thing, took off with a bunch of our children, put them in these missionary schools and whatever, and it was on and cracking from there. You know, they're snatching them up out of the hospital, talking about, oh, the mother's on drugs or crack or this or that, and the mother has to leave the hospital without her child because her children are kidnapped in the hospital. And a lot of these people that are on some whole other stuff where we're concerned are taking our children, that's supposedly adopting them, raising them, and you have melanin-rich people think that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. You're talking about, one, people that don't like us like that. Two, I mean, you know, when the dude killed little Trayvon Martin or young Trayvon Martin, the European community rose up and supported him so cold and started financing, dropped big money on this cat for shooting a young brother for no apparent reason. And they even convinced the parents to come out and say, oh, it's not racial. I think it is, because the fact of the matter is, if the guy that shot Trayvon Martin had been a brother and Trayvon Martin had been a European, it'd be some whole different stuff going on up in here. It wouldn't have been the same kind of results. No way, no how at all, okay? And you can't tell me that you love our people so much when you have the Emmett Tills and the Trayvon Martins, and there's a whole lot of these brothers every day, all day, that get treated like this by European people. You don't like us enough to take, raise, or adopt our children. And then you're going to raise them in so-called white communities where it's okay to shoot them for walking down the street because you don't feel like they should be in the community. If they shouldn't be in the community, then these people shouldn't even adopt them and bring them to the communities, because I guarantee you when they adopt the children that look like us, they're not raising them in our communities. So they're going to raise them in communities of a hostile nature and a hostile environment with people that don't like us like that anyway. And usually they're raping them, molesting them, sodomizing them, tormenting them, torturing them, or mistreating them anyhow. They treat their own children that way. You don't have any business raising our children. You don't do well with your children. You have no business raising children at all. That's one of the reasons why the Creator ain't giving them children. The omniversal forces know who should have a child, even though different things happen where people kind of lose it. But, you know, I don't know. A lot of these people will get raised by people. They tie them up, lock them up, cuff them up, cage them up, and then they let them out in your communities looking like you, and they become the head of gangs and the head of this, and they run around with Koofy's that and Stairs is on, and they ain't you at all. They look like you, but they something else. Some of them not your people because they weren't raised by your people, or some of them aren't your people because they ain't even from the Americas anyway in a lot of instances. You just accept them because they look like you and you think they're you, but everybody looks like you ain't you. There are people on your block that aren't you, people in your neighborhood that aren't you, so you can't say, oh, all the dark complexion people in the world, it's all us. The hell? Why you got people in your family, same mom, dad, same bloodline, that ain't you, on some whole other stuff. You know, you got people that come to your house. Oh, so-and-so's coming over. Get my purse. Hide my purse. Wait, where the baby? Get my baby. Y'all know this fool can't be trusted around children. So miss me with the we all the same because we all so-called black. I don't buy it. I'm not feeling it. You know, so these people will be raised up, and they will be plopped in the community to destroy it from within because you think they're you because they look like you. Remember, people that look like you killed Malcolm, helped kill Martin, killed Ralph K. Bunchy Carter, some of the most important brothers we've ever had. You know what I'm saying? And people that look like what you call the enemy helped a lot with the Underground Railroad. So you can't always tell who's who by looking at some skin color. My people better wake the hell up. Oh, excuse me. We're out of time. I think that's about it.
Yes, Yaffa, but I want to thank you so much for coming on. You know, you made definitely some key points. And what you said about, you know, the color line is kind of reminding me of, what was it, the Stono Rebellion, or Beacons Rebellion, where in Virginia, where the Europeans, along with the Moors, had actually joined forces to overthrow and to fight against, you know, the system that was going on. So it's something that you said that.
So you talking about Bacon's Rebellion? Bacon got out there and got his whole family to come out there to help with of rebellion, and a lot of melanin-rich people wouldn't even go support the brother. Him and his family died out there alone with no support. And as a matter of fact, I think it was a melanin-rich person that exposed what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the movie Django, that's somebody that looked like everybody and wasn't everybody at all. Mm-hmm. If you saw the movie, I mean.
Oh, I didn't see that. But,
well,
you know, it's good that you...
DJ NGO is what it's, how it's spelled. I mean, no, DJ ANGO, my bad.
But, yeah, that's definitely something to see, because I heard so much talk about it. But,
well,
you know,
so... That everybody look like you is not you. And everybody looks like them is not the enemy.
I hear you on that. I hear you. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to address, you know, before I close out the show. But I do want to thank you so much for being on again.
No problem.
Yes.
Anytime.
Yes, so we will talk soon.
Have a marvelous evening.
Okay, you do the same. Have a splendid one.
Good night.
All right, good night. Peace.
I say.
All right, everybody, you know, that was Yaffa Bay on here on Civil Alert. And before we close out, I do want to address a couple of things. You know, there was a caller that came on, and she was speaking about a brother in Nanya who was saying that the Constitution was void since 2011. One thing that I would like for everybody to do is to be very mindful when people come and they bring information of this nature, because one of the main questions you have to ask yourself is that if the Constitution is void, who voided the Constitution? And another main question to look at is that if there is a public servant that is saying that the Constitution is void, then does that mean that the Constitution is void, or is the public servant that's stating such a thing, are they acting in a colorable manner? And then if you look at any cases, and also too I should make mention that there was a press release that went out by a man by the name of William Windsor, and he is actually doing a documentary called Lawless in America. He actually had sent out that press release back then, talking about a case where the gentleman that was involved in the case was saying that there was a Supreme Court ruling stating that the Constitution was void. And so at the end of that press release, William Windsor has his name there and his web address. So when I'm looking at that, it looked as if like it was a publicity stunt to get people to really start looking at what he was doing. So I just ask, you know, I just have to say again, I really see this as like a form of disinformation. The reason why I'm saying that is if the Constitution is really void, then why is it that it's been this slew of cases where people have won their cases reinforcing the Constitution and international treaties? So we have to be very mindful, because what I'm seeing is that many people do not actually perform their own due diligence, and they do not go and study, but they jump and cling onto the very words of what anybody says. So it's pretty much like a pendulum. You know how if you have a pendulum, it's either going to sway to the left or to the right, but the pendulum never really stands steady and centered. So what happens is that if someone is operating from a level of having being like a pendulum, then it's like, okay, on Monday you believe this, and then on Tuesday you believe something else. Then on Wednesday it's something else, and then the next month it's something else. But when you really just go and do your own research, whether it's going to the law libraries, and there's tons of depositories that's right online where you can actually go into the congressional records. The Library of Congress literally has their whole statutes, the statutes at large and all the congressional records and everything. It's digitized. It's digitized so much to the point that when you even go to D.C. and go to the Library of Congress, they will actually say that you will probably look better and it'll be easier and faster for you to pull up some of the documentation. So, I'm just bringing this up because what I'm seeing that happens is that being that there are so many regular, everyday people that are starting to read and know, like, wait a minute, it's not about no civil rights, it's about human rights. And then when people are starting to look into the Constitution further, and then when people are starting to utilize the Articles of Confederation, they're utilizing the Declaration of Independence, they're using the Rights of Man that was issued, and it's an international treaty through the Organization of American States, they're utilizing several of the covenants and the treaties that the U.S. has signed and they're a party to via the United Nations. I noticed that it seems like people are getting a little uncomfortable because who are these everyday people that are supposed to be our commercial property? Who are they to start being astute and knowing about this stuff that their so-called leaders are not talking to them about? So we have to be very mindful with this disinformation that comes in. I don't know if it's on purpose or I don't know if it's just something just like out of ignorance. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I just do want to heavily recommend that people just read, do their study, and they'll be able to come to their own conclusions. And then as far as people banding together to do something, because I think there was a reference made into a nationality, right? When it comes to declaring and proclaiming who you are, you have to do that. Nobody can do that for you. You cannot go into a group and have no knowledge of self and let somebody tell you who you are. People can provide you with keys and they can provide you with information, but with going into the knowledge of self, it really is a spiritual journey. I mean, it is like really you go in. You really do go in, and so many different doors start to open once you do that. So I agree that it is good for people to unite and move forward, but as far as when it comes to declaring and just declaring and proclaiming things if you don't have no knowledge of, this is what causes the situation of where you may have people who they will say, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, but then you're like, okay, who was your grandmother? Who was your great-grandmother? Who was your great-great-grandfather? And then sometimes people can't even answer basic questions like that where the information is so prevalent and it's just readily available. So if you have a situation where nobody is really looking at the whole spiritual, like the essence of what this nationality is and what the ancestral pride is and looking at the genealogy and taking it seriously, then it'll be a situation where people are gravitating, following this group here, getting in this group here, filing all this paperwork, and then when anybody just sits them down and asks them some hardcore questions about who they are, they really can't answer it. So, I just want to say that, and we do have a caller that's holding. (860-306). Welcome to Silver Alert.
Peace, sister. How are you?
Peace. I'm doing very well. And how are you?
I'm doing great. I don't want to take up any time, but I did want to say one thing real quick to all those people who think that the Constitution is void or suspended or whatever you want to call it. January 6th, I believe it was, Obama was inaugurated. I believe he took an oath to support the Constitution. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
So if it's voided, why would he even do that?
That's correct.
So I just wanted to, throw that out there because, every public servant who is in a seat took an oath to uphold the Constitution. So if these same public servants are saying that they had some authority to void the Constitution, they just fired themselves. So we need to stop paying